Patrick, might I say that you look snappy in your shirt? I believe that's the Planetary Countdown.
And that's the extraterrestrial shirt from Into the AM, and they are sponsoring this segment. They have high quality, premium apparel, including graphic tees, basic tees, hoodies, and even boxer briefs. There's a nice cut to them. They stand out. Some are like glow in the black light, like this one's a black light shirt. And they're out there, otherworldly themes. There's some down-to-earth themes as well. I like this one. This is the digital space tee. Very 80s design here. You got a little space shuttle on the top. Nice little graphic on the bottom there in the sun and the sunset. Really eye-pleasing, eye-popping stuff. And they got bundles as well. Right now you can get 3 graphic tees for $60 or 3 basic tees for $45. And right now they're having a Memorial Day sale. That's right. May 28th to the 31st. They're having a Memorial Day sale, weekend sale. You'll get 20% off your order, plus an additional 10% off if you use our discount link. You can click on it below on YouTube, or if you're on the podcast, you're listening, you can also use code CONTRI, and you'll get 10% off these very comfortable shirts and their other gear. Again, use code CONTRI to save an additional 10%, or click on the link in the YouTube description down there. Click on it. Go look good and feel good with Into the AM. All right, Ian, we are in the age now of Pokemon cards where there's a 3-year backlog to get them graded, and people on YouTube opening up packs of these sort of things. Baseball cards blowing up the past few years. I went to the swap meet a few months ago, and there was a baseball card dealer for new baseball cards. I said, really? Okay, you're selling packs of cards now.
It's gotten fucking crazy.
Limited edition toys that are coming out every week, it seems, based upon old 80s and 90s properties, whether it's Ninja Turtles, He-Man, G.I. Joe, what have you. We're in the age now of nostalgia perfectly meeting consumerism into this marriage of spend as much money as you can to get this stuff potentially that not just you'll enjoy with your happy, warm, fuzzy feels, but it can be worth money. And this has been happening more and more, I'd say, over the past maybe 2 years, 3 years for sure. Going back to even Comic-Con and having all their exclusive toy sets where you got to show up that day to get them and flipping them on eBay. So, we were going to talk about this beforehand, but at the same time, good old Jim Sterling, who does the Jimquisition, does his rant videos.
I like that name. I just think it's very clever.
The Jimquisition?
I think it's very clever, yes.
We talk about Jim Sterling every once in a while. He does like Carney style videos with good salient points done he's into pro wrestling, the guy himself personally. So they're basically promos, long-winded promos about a topic.
He's good on the mic.
He's good on the mic, yes. Snappy dresser as well. And he talked about basically the topic of have millennials killed nostalgia. Basically on the back of all the bad articles that come out, like have millennials killed this industry, the diamond industry, have they killed, I don't know, collecting China plates, because we don't care about that, and silverware. I was talking about we don't care about silverware and China plates. Hey, Ian, here's a China set for your fucking wedding. No, we're not doing that. That died with the boomers, basically. Maybe older Gen X, But have millennials killed nostalgia? And he talks about the Pokemon cards, and he talks about stuff that he's even into. He even admits I'm into the Moblins, the little rubbery... Boglins. Not Moblins is Legend of Zelda.
Moblins is Zelda.
Boglins,
yes.
Which were more uncommon toys that I didn't know a kid that had them, but I'd heard of them. Little rubbery puppets with little arms
and
faces.
Goofy faces.
Yes.
They come in like a little cage.
Which they've remade. I met the guy who created them at a convention last year. They've made new ones the past few years through Kickstarters. So we've had a resurgence of Kickstarters getting these properties back off the ground, companies reinvesting them and redoing it. But now we've hit this sort of gross point where if you say something, what's the point of something being over monetized or over capitalized on? The point is when a huge organization like Target says, we are no longer selling Pokemon cards because we fear for the safety of customers. Because asshole adults are going in and running in as soon as this shit is put on the shelf in order to buy it to either try to collect it to win their lottery and find stuff, or to scalp the cards and to sell it at such a high price. And that's the weird point that we are at. It has always existed, though. That's the one thing about Jim's video that I don't agree with. This has existed always in some way, shape, or form. I've seen it personally going back to the 90s in terms of buying collector stuff that first came out. Well, like when the starting lineup hockey figures first came out, collectors ran to the KB toy stores right when it opened and got them all. Little Patrick couldn't get Brian Leach because some assholes ran and got it before him at 7 a.m. because I was 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late. Something like this has always happened. Spawn figure collecting in the 90s. Power of the Force figures in 95 when they came back out. You had tons of collectors saying, oh, this would be the next big thing. It's Star Wars, the first new Star Wars toys in 10 years. They went and bought this stuff. I think, though, with the combination of having the social media awareness with the internet to sell this shit, and now you have things like NFTs and people spending way much money than they probably should. You have this weird perfect storm of nostalgia becoming our worst nightmare. And I think that's what was the most salient point of Jim's video is that.
What's that?
This perfect storm of all this happening.
And that's what I think it is too. So like you said, obviously we can go back to the 90s. Tamagotchis were hard to get when they first came out. You can even go back to the 80s.
Beanie Babies? You ever hear Beanie Babies?
Beanie Babies. You can go back to the 80s. You can look at stuff like Tickle Me Elmo. You can go back to the 80s, look at Cabbage Patch Dolls.
Yes.
Here's where I think there is a lot of difference. So when you look at stuff like the Cabbage Patch Dolls, when you look at stuff like
Tickle Me Elmo,
even Beanie Babies. These were all things that were hard to get. And yes, there was money attached to them. But, and I don't think this is just looking back rosily, at least with some of those, you could conceivably say that people were buying that to own it.
For children to enjoy.
For children to enjoy or to own. Whether or not you were a kid buying a Beanie Baby, I don't care. A lot of those people who were going out of their way to get them, they were having a tough time to getting it, and it was difficult, but they wanted to own it. The problem, I think, with this generation...
First for Beanie Babies, it spiraled out of control.
I think the big problem with this generation is... every generation's had its nostalgia poisoning. I mean, I remember the Spencer's Gifts, and it's not unique. Spencer's Gifts in the 1990s was decked out like, that 70s show.
The lava lamps?
Yeah, now it's the 80s. But this is so cynical and finely tuned to generate a profit. And I think that's the difference here. People are running out to buy those Pokemon cards to immediately, they're not opening them. They're buying them to immediately flip those packs online.
Well, people were flipping Tickle Me Elmos. They were.
I realize, but the social media, the fact that everyone's always aware of it, eBay, online marketplaces, like you said earlier about Jim saying it's a perfect storm. I think that's what it is, but it just seems to be more finely tuned for finance.
I think the more I think about it, I think it's more social media, because without social media, it's a lot tougher to get the FOMO out there, the fear of missing out, of saying like, okay, so in the 90s, late 90s was Tickle Me Elmo was the biggest toy. What was that? 97, 96, something like that. When was Tickle Me Elmo? The internet was still relatively new to a lot of people, but you had news stories coming out. Tickle Me Elmo is the hottest thing. I saw those all the time. So that alone caused parents to be like, okay, Tickle Me Elmo is something I should look for. And yes, they had commercials. I remember my aunt trying to get my smaller, she was a young cousin at the time with Tickle Me Elmo and was having trouble getting it. And there were people that scalped things back then. eBay was fairly new, but you had that, even though most people weren't using that. But it was always, oh, I know a guy that has it. I know a guy's got a couple. That's how that stuff worked. That's how it worked with Cabbage Patch Kids in 84 and 85. It was always, oh, I know someone that got an extra one. I knew, that's how it was. Or maybe they fell off the back of a truck.
Right.
Or maybe an employee bought them early if they weren't stolen. So this has always been going on. My uncle used to do some of this more sketchy stuff. My uncle always knew a guy that knew a guy. My Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe.
He's my Uncle Joe from fucking Bayonne. Come on. Come on. It's my Uncle Joe. I love him. But, but with the internet, though, not just tells you about the product and tells you about why you want it now, it tells you about the money-making opportunities attached to this that weren't around potentially in the 90s. Well, QVC and Home Shopping with their Beanie Babies, they did fucking go into, well, look at this last year's Beanie Baby. This one's worth $1,000. They were responsible for that. But at that point, though, it was older people. and it didn't bleed into the kids as much because you can still find Beanie Babies for kids. Not every Beanie Baby was worth a lot of money. Kids can still get the Beanie Baby fix. Yeah, I want that hard to find, I don't know, Shamu Beanie Baby. Okay, well, here's another one.
Right.
This is everything, though, you can't find. You can't get any of these Pokemon cards, apparently. You can't find them.
Nope. And people, and the games are bad, too. I mean, it literally, Pokemon as a whole is just a fucking nightmare right now. Fucking loose copies of the Game Boy Advance games going for $150, near $200. These games were printed in fucking piles and piles. Mm-hmm. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, who do you blame? You blame millennials. I think the one thing, though, that's a little bit different, and this goes, it's all connected to NFTs to some degree, and it's connected to crypto, is that it goes back to, the boomers, going back to like the Greatest Generation helped build the country up after World War II and the Depression. The boomers basically fucking strip mined what the Greatest Generation did. And pulled most of the ladder up, which is what Jim was saying, and I agree with some of that. Pulled the ladder up.
I agree with that. Yes.
So millennials at this point then are like, well, how do I get mine? How do I make my money? And how am I comfortable with my house, 2 dogs, and a picket fence? How do I get my American dream? It's been perverted either by technology or the fact that they really are that desperate. Is that I will take a gamble on crypto. I will put all my life savings into Dogecoin. I will buy these fucking NFTs and take the gamble. This huge gamble, life savings gambles of either win it big or I'm back to where I was, but wasn't that bad before anyway. I'll just try again. So I think the expression I saw was like, not like usually it's like, oh, it's the ladder of life that you climb up of. Now it's a potential trampoline, or it's like you try to bounce up immediately, but you can fall on your ass.
Yeah, you're not going to grow into a comfortable life.
No, it's not growth over time. It's either all or nothing.
You may have very comfortable points in your life, followed by low points again, followed by high.
But the theory is that, well, since I'm such at a low point anyway, I'll take that loan out to buy this crypto and strike it big. You're basically gambling with your life. That's what a lot of this comes. I'm not saying this is all people buying these Pokemon cards, but it's that mentality of, well, I have to do this. This is the way I get money now, is I go and I run over other people. I've seen the video footage. Run over people to get fucking boxes of Pokemon cards. And these are adults. These are grown men doing this. These aren't... So fuck the kids. They can't even get anything, by the way. Fuck the Zoomers. Because I want to get my box of cards that I could flip for whatever. What are they going for? What's a box of new Pokemon cards going for?
I have not checked.
Like you wish that the Pokemon company can just pump all this shit out and flood the market, so then kids could have stuff to play with, right, and fuck the adults trying to invest in it and to scalp it.
And that's what sucks so much. The Pokemon trading card game is a shitload of fun. I love it. And when lockdown started, I was like, time for me to organize my cards, make a couple decks, and get back into this. I was like, oh, I guess that's not going to be happening now.
So what's the newest set this year? Like, what is it?
I don't know. They put out sets very, very frequently.
I'm just trying to see what a set of cards even goes for. I'm trying to see, like, what is it worth the time that I got to get up 7 a.m. in the morning, run my ass to Target against other grown men and fight over boxes of cards. Sword and Shield booster box, $200. Buy it now. 79 sold. What does that go for? What would the retail of that be?
200 is what they're selling it for.
What does retail be? 50?
No, a retail box, a full box of boosters.
What's the pack cost?
About $5. The full box. I've bought boxes of Pokemon cards before. It's about 100 and anywhere from 95 to 120.
Okay, so they're doubling their money, kind of, if they're going to Target and buying it.
Yes.
Something like that. Jesus, is that worth it to do something like that?
No. I mean, I don't think so.
Booster box, Silver Lance, and Jet Black set, $175 from Japan. So it seems like you can't get them in stores. You got to buy them directly from someone who already has a bunch of them, or wholesalers. I know someone that's wholesaled, who's bought wholesale stuff, of boxes of cards, and they just sit on them for years now, because they know that in 5-6 years from now, this is going to be worth a certain amount of money. I'll just sell it then. So I'm sure that goes on as well. I'm sure there's people that...
I mean, absolutely. There are people there are people doing this now, looking at what a cost of base Pokemon from the 90s was going for now, and they're like, well, if I just sit on this box for fucking
20 years,
it'll be worth something.
That's a gamble.
It's a bold gamble.
It's a bold gamble. But I know people that have done that with the shorter term. Yeah, 5 years later, we know it can go for this. So we'll say I'll buy $2,000 worth of boxes of this card set, we'll just say. If I know, looking historically, it'll at least double or triple, then maybe it's worth that gamble over time. Eventually, it runs out. I mean, the interest has to run out. So I don't know. Ian, do you see a different mindset, Ian, though, amongst people our age, maybe slightly older, slightly less, the ex-millennials or older Gen X, about spending the amount of money going back on this stuff versus what our parents did? Because like my father, he brought me to the toy shows in the 90s. And that's why I said there's always been nostalgia. Yes, there was more heavy advertising in the 80s. And let's be honest. The cartoons of the 80s were miles ahead of the cartoons from the 70s and 60s. So for first off, it wasn't just, yes, they heavily advertised toys for us. The toys got a lot better. The cartoons got a lot better too.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Quest is not G.I. Joe. You know, the Hanna-Barbera crap is not Transformers or Ninja Turtles. They're not even close to like the level of entertainment. I can't watch that 70s stuff. I couldn't when I was a kid. It's not.
I couldn't watch
garbage.
it then either.
It's garbage. And stories, the toys sucked.
I've never been one who got nostalgic for Saturday morning cartoons because so much of it was filler trash.
But overall, though, better than 80s was leagues ahead of the 70s and 60s. So it's not just because, well, TV heavily advertised. They always advertise toys for kids. That said, my father in the 90s, when you know he was, Jesus Christ, our age in the 90s, when I went to toy shows, I was looking for Star Wars toys. He was looking for Mark's toys that he grew up with, you know, in the 50s and 60s, the little toy army men, and you know, you had your Revolutionary War set, the little plastic guys.
Right.
That's what he grew up with. There was no action figures in the 50s. You know, that started coming with the late 70s. G.I. Joes were still dolls. The late 70s when you had the 3 3/4 guys. That also helped to revolutionize things as well, because now toys became cheaper. That's a whole other conversation, though, that there weren't little action figures until the late 70s. And that partially because of probably, I think, the oil crisis and cost of plastics. Whole other conversation. But in the 90s, it was, in 80s, model trains that the boomers grew up with. Mark's toys is worth a lot more, and it was stuff that they enjoyed. And that fell off. This will fall off to us as well. But yes, it's a weird perfect storm of the better IPs, social media, and now this sort of get rich quick stuff that now has frenzied us the past couple years. Is that it?
That's about it.
Did I cover it all?
Yeah, I think we got it.